Patrick Hicks Music Stories presents Every Grammys Ever, the 22nd Annual Grammy Awards, February 27th, 1980. In the immortal words of the Ramones, who were never nominated for a single Grammy, although they did get a Lifetime Achievement Award in 2011, it's the end. The end of the 70s. It's the end of the century. We are at the end of the 1970s. We're 1/3 of the way through this series. We get a new host this year. It's Kenny Rogers. He also won the most Grammys in this awards with 5, which seems kind of like a conflict of interest, but okay. And in his monologue, Kenny Rogers talked about the importance of the Grammys. He talked about how the awards were moving into their second decade of being on television, and he said that the Grammy is finally established in the minds of everyone as the most meaningful and highly desired award. And as much criticism as people have for the Grammys, I think that is true. If somebody wins a Grammy, it is automatically added to the first line of their biography. Grammy-winning singer, Grammy-winning songwriter. It will be in their obituary. As much as people say that they don't matter, people do put an importance on these awards, which is why I think it's important to study their history. Speaking of history, we've got some historic firsts tonight. For one thing, we finally see Bob Dylan win a solo Grammy. He had gotten one for being part of the concert for Bangladesh, but tonight he finally wins one on his own. Although it's kind of an odd one, he wins Best Rock Vocal Performance Male for the song Gotta Serve Somebody. It's kind of funny that it wasn't until 1980 that they thought maybe rock music needed some specific genre categories. So they added Best Rock Vocal Performance Female, Best Rock Vocal Performance Male, Best Rock Vocal Performance by a Duo or Group, and Best Rock Instrumental Performance, which they somehow decided was a vital category to have in 1980. The female award went to a singer that we all associate with rock music, Donna Summer, who beat the jazz pop singer Rickie Lee Jones, the blues singer Bonnie Raitt, the folk singer Carly Simon, and the country singer Tanya Tucker. The Best Rock Group Award went to the Eagles, and the Instrumental Award went to a song by Wings, who beat out my personal favorite nominee, Frank Zappa, for his song Rat Tamago. This instrumental rock category inexplicably lasted until 2011. Bob Dylan beat out Joe Jackson, Robert Palmer, Rod Stewart, and Frank Zappa. This was from his Christian album, Slow Train Coming. Slow Train Coming was Bob Dylan's 19th studio album, but this night also saw the first win for an artist who had just released his first solo album, Michael Jackson. He won Best R&B Vocal Performance Male for Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. That song was also nominated for Best Disco Recording, but lost to Gloria Gaynor's I Will Survive. This was the first and only time that this category was awarded. They discontinued this the next year, but still, disco got its own award and not punk. Now, Best New Artist this year is pretty fascinating. You have multiple comedians nominated. It had been a long time since a non-musician was nominated for Best New Artist, but you had both the Blues Brothers, who I guess are kind of musicians, and Robin Williams nominated. There was also The Knack and Dire Straits, but the winner was Rickie Lee Jones. Now you can see with the addition of the disco and rock vocal categories, they're mixing things up this year. And for some reason this year, for Song of the Year, they expanded beyond 5 songs. There are 8 songs nominated for Song of the Year, including songs by Rickie Lee Jones, I Will Survive, plus songs from Billy Joel, Earth, Wind & Fire, Peaches and Herb, and the host Kenny Rogers, and 2 songs from the Doobie Brothers. And the winner ends up being the Doobie Brothers song, What a Fool Believes. What a Fool Believes also wins Record of the Year, which was only 5 songs this year. They beat out After the Love Has Gone by Earth, Wind & Fire, The Gambler by Kenny Rogers, I Will Survive, and You Don't Bring Me Flowers by Barbra Streisand and Neil Diamond. And wait a minute, wasn't You Don't Bring Me Flowers also nominated last year for Song of the Year? Now, how did that happen? Because there were actually 2 different versions of the song. Neil Diamond recorded one, and Barbra Streisand recorded one. So that underlying song is what was nominated for Song of the Year, but then a DJ in Louisville, Kentucky named Gary Guthrie took those 2 solo recordings, one from Barbra Streisand, one for Neil Diamond, and he spliced them together. It's actually supposed to be a present to his wife, who he was divorcing. It was a goodbye present. And he aired his spliced together duet on the radio, and it became a huge hit. So at this year's Grammys, You Don't Bring Me Flowers, now credited to Barbra Streisand and Neil Diamond, is nominated for Record of the Year, and they perform it as a duet on the show. Now here are the nominations for Album of the Year. First up, Billy Joel, who couldn't be nominated for The Stranger last year because it was outside the eligibility year, does get nominated for his album 52nd Street. We see disco represented again with Donna Summer's Bad Girls. We see the host, Kenny Rogers, get a nomination for The Gambler. You see Song and Record of the Year winners, the Doobie Brothers, nominated for their album Minute by Minute. Great year for yacht rock. And then you have the enormously successful record by Supertramp, Breakfast in America. But before we get to the winner, let's talk about what wasn't nominated. We've got some big ones. Michael Jackson's Off the Wall. He did get those nominations and his first win for Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, but nothing for the album. You've got Talking Heads' Fear of Music, Joy Division, Unknown Pleasures, and AC/DC's Highway to Hell, which if it were up to me, all of the previous AC/DC albums would have been nominated, but this is the first one that actually sold in America, and it was ignored. And the Grammy goes to Billy Joel, 52nd Street. Billy Joel has had a great 2 years at the Grammys. He's racked up a Song of the Year, a Record of the Year, and an Album of the Year. And now that we're at the end of the 1970s, let's look back at the decade like we did with the 60s and see if the Grammys has done any better. We've got Bridge Over Troubled Water, Tapestry, The Concert for Bangladesh, Inner Visions, Fulfilling This' First Finale, Still Crazy After All These Years, Songs in the Key of Life, Rumors, Saturday Night Fever, and 52nd Street. And I gotta say, that is a huge improvement over the albums from the 60s. These are some of the most iconic albums of the 70s. I might have had a few nitpicks here and there of who should have won, but this is pretty representative of the decade. You've got soul, funk, pop, rock, singer-songwriter, disco. I think the Grammys are in a pretty good place. Let's see if they can keep going into the 1980s. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time for the highs and lows of the 23rd Grammy Awards in 1981.
Because you had to be a patient, you had to